The Ashcraftoft family's monthly dinners had little to do with food and everything to do with financial flexing. Tonight, in their cavernous Napa Valley estate, promised to be especially insufferable. I took my usual spot by the fireplace, content to observe as my cousins outbragged each other. Just closed on a ranch in Jackson Hole, Preston drawled, swirling his wine. Right next to a guy who practically owns Silicon Valley. Cassandra scoffed, flipping open her designer clutch like a stage prop. Please. We just bought a vineyard in Tuscany. Private access to the med. That kind of view is priceless. I hid my smile behind a glass of iced tea. If only they knew, Nora. Aunt Evelyn's voice sliced through the chatter. You've been awfully quiet. Preston leaned in, his concern fake and sticky sweet. We were just wondering about your living situation. And there it was. What about it? I said, setting my glass down. That little duplex in Portland, he said. Still renting? The one on Alder Street, Cassandra chimed in, wide-eyed. Didn't know people our age still rented. I nearly laughed. That little duplex was the first commercial property my company acquired under West Pine Holdings. To them, I was a tenant. In reality, I was the landlord. I like the space, I replied. You're 35, sweetie, Evelyn added with a patronizing tilt of her head. It's time to buy something real. Real? Try a $1.8 billion portfolio of residential complexes, office towers, and, yes, Ashcraftoft Plaza, the very building hosting tonight's Peacock Parade. I'd bought it quietly, 6 months ago, through a private equity firm they'd never connect to me. I've managed just fine, I said. Preston smirked. You can't even afford a mortgage. I let them talk. Soon, they'd be renewing the lease under my name. Dad looked up from his wine, finally. Now, Preston. Not everyone's blessed with your instincts. Nora chose her own path. Evelyn sighed, as if I'd squandered my future by skipping marriage to a hedge fund manager or skipping out on a lifestyle blog. They pictured me schlepping through open houses with broke grad students, scraping by on commission. What they didn't know was that I was West Pine Holdings, the anonymous force reshaping the Northwest real estate market, one quiet acquisition at a time. Speaking of real estate, Cassandra said, her eyes gleaming, have you heard what's happening on Alder Street? Some firm bought the whole block. Going to knock it all down, she added, faux sympathetic. Guess that cute little place of yours will finally go. I kept my expression neutral. I was the buyer, and demolition was never the plan. The Alder Street complex was a preserved treasure, full of families with rent protections. My renovation plan respected that history. Really? I said lightly. Hadn't heard. Of course not, Preston said. Deals like that are way above your level. If you get booted, Evelyn offered cheerfully, you can always move into the guest house. We'll help you find something more respectable. Maybe even someone more respectable. I'm happy, I said. So is my landlord. Cassandra gave a tight laugh. You can't live small forever, darling. The Hale name used to mean something. It still did, just not in ways they understood. In the industry, West Pine Holdings was known for ethical growth and community-first development, everything my cousin's flashy projects weren't. Actually, Dad said, placing his glass down, this dinner is partly about business. The board's concerned about the new majority owner of Ashcraftoft Plaza. I tilted my head. West Pine Holdings bought it 6 months ago, he said. No one knows who they are. Possibly foreign. Preston nodded. Has to be. Those tycoons love legacy properties. If only they knew the mystery investor was sitting across the table in a thrifted cardigan and scuffed boots. And now, Dad continued, they've ordered an audit. Full books, full transparency. Creative accounting, like Preston's siphoning from the building fund for his retreat, or Cassandra's handbag client expenses, was about to be exposed. I'm sure it's nothing, Evelyn said, her pearls twitching. The Hale name still holds weight. That's just it, Dad replied. West Pine doesn't care about names. They care about numbers. Panic flickered behind their curated smiles. An audit would blow the doors off their empire of lies. Maybe Nora can help, Cassandra offered suddenly, voice sweetened with desperation. She's in real estate. Maybe she knows someone on the inside? All eyes turned to me. Just like that, I was no longer irrelevant, I was a potential asset. I mostly work with smaller residential clients, I said smoothly. Nothing as big as Ashcraftoft Plaza. For God's sake, Preston snapped. You can't even help your own family? Mom gave him a warning glance, but said nothing. Even Dad was back to scrolling his phone, uninterested in defending me. They had no idea just how helpful I was about to be, just not in the way they hoped. By morning, West Pine Holdings would issue a public statement, effective immediately. Ashcraftoft Plaza was under new operational governance. No more shadow ledgers. No more sweetheart contracts funneled to cousins. No more using the building's budget like it was the family's limitless credit card. I looked around the room. Every imported vase, overpriced couch, and inflated invoice had a story. Cassandra's husband's firm had billed triple for light fixtures. The abstract painting behind me? Bought with funds earmarked for structural repairs. Anyway, I said, rising, brushing off the crumbs from my jeans. Cassandra's smirk curled like a ribbon. Off to show more rent-controlled shoeboxes? I slung my worn leather bag over my shoulder. Inside were the documents that would upend everything: audit results, legal filings, renovation blueprints, worth more than anything they flaunted in this penthouse. Aunt Evelyn's voice followed me like a perfume I never liked. Next time, dear, try dressing more like a Hale. Appearances matter. I turned, smiling calmly. Don't worry, I said. Tomorrow, I'll look exactly how a Hale should. They just didn't realize I already did, just not the version they'd imagined. The next morning, I stood in my real office, a penthouse suite in downtown Portland, glass walls soaking in the skyline. No more pretending. Today, the masks came off. Isla, my assistant, entered briskly, placing a cappuccino beside my laptop. The Ashcraftoft Plaza board is seated. Your family's already there, trying to win over the independents. I allowed myself a quiet smile, picturing Preston's panic masquerading as charm. The audit packets are distributed, legals prepped, forensics found more than we expected. She hesitated. You sure about this? Once it's out there, there's no walking it back. They need to learn, I said, turning to the window. That legacy isn't a license, it's a responsibility. My reflection stared back. No more thrifted cardigan. Today, I wore a navy Altazara suit. Power without pretense. The kind of look Aunt Evelyn once hoped I'd wear down an aisle. Instead, I'd wear it into battle. The announcement goes live in 20 minutes, Isla said. Once it hits, there's no hiding. Perfect, I said, grabbing my briefcase. Let's begin. The Ashcraftoft Plaza boardroom fell silent as I entered. My family sat huddled at the end, visibly shaken, overdressed, underprepared. Who are you? Preston snapped. This is a private meeting. I placed my briefcase at the head of the table, unhurried. I'm Nora Hale, I said, founder and sole owner of West Pine Holdings, the company that owns this building, and several others your family's been siphoning from. Evelyn went pale. Cassandra's mouth parted but made no sound. Dad's pen stilled in his hand. Nora, he whispered. I nodded once. Good morning. I opened the briefcase and began distributing folders, one for each board member. Shall we review your financials? This is ridiculous, Preston barked. You're just. What? I said, calmly. The family embarrassment? The renter? The one who wore boots instead of Balenciaga? Cassandra blinked, stunned. But, you show apartments. I work, I said simply, and I built something real, not smoke and mirrors. The board watched, silent, as the Hales began to unravel. These documents outline every misused fund, every inflated invoice, every falsified transaction linked to Ashcraftoft Plaza. I slid a file across to Preston. Care to explain the $2 million roof repair that funded your ranch? His face flushed crimson. I turned to Cassandra. Your husband's invoices, 3 times market rate for plumbing? Care to walk us through that? You'd humiliate your own family like this? Aunt Evelyn gasped. No, I said. You did that. I'm just bringing in the cleanup crew. Dad leaned forward, voice tight. Nora, sweetheart, there's an explanation? Don't, I said, while you treated this legacy like your playground. I was quietly building one with real purpose. But why hide it? Cassandra asked. Why live like that? I didn't hide, I replied. I lived with intention. You equated wealth with noise. I chose silence and strategy. Preston gaped. The Alder Street property, you actually live there? I own it, I said, and the surrounding block. And no, I'm not demolishing it, because some of us still care about communities, not condos. Suddenly, phones vibrated across the table. One board member looked up, eyes wide. West Pine Holdings confirms identity of CEO, Nora Hale, owner of $2 billion real estate portfolio. Another whispered, reading from her screen. Top-ranked ethical developer, historic preservation, tenant-first policies. This will ruin us, Cassandra said, voice cracking. No, I said softly. This will rebuild you, if you're willing to change. Starting today, Ashcraftoft Plaza will operate transparently. No more slush funds, no more sweetheart deals. Preston's voice was a rasp. And if we don't? I smiled coldly. Then I forward everything to the IRS, the SEC, and anyone else who likes bedtime stories with receipts. Silence fell, thick and final. What do you want? Dad asked quietly. I looked each of them in the eye. I want you to remember what the Hale name used to mean, before you spent it like loose change. Great-grandfather built communities, not just profit margins. I stood, gathering my papers. You have a choice, I said evenly. You can work with me to restore that legacy, or find somewhere else to live. I hear there are some lovely rentals in Lake Otsego. I turned to leave. Nora, wait. Dad's voice stopped me as I reached the door. I was wrong about you. Yes, I replied quietly. You were. The aftermath was like something out of a business drama. The media couldn't get enough of the hidden Hale of Portland, the woman who quietly built a real estate empire, then tore down her family's illusions in a single boardroom meeting. Aunt Evelyn resigned from 3 local boards, too ashamed to show her face. Cassandra's husband's firm folded within weeks of the audit's release. But it wasn't all bitter. No one went to jail, but finally, some faced real consequences. Cassandra enrolled in a public university's real estate program and started volunteering at a downtown transitional housing shelter. She told me later it gave her more purpose than any of her gallery openings ever had. And Dad? He asked to learn the business, not as a father reclaiming control, but as a student. This time, he genuinely wanted to understand what I'd built. 6 months later, I sat in my Alder Street apartment. Yes, I kept it, reviewing quarterly reports. Ashcraftoft Plaza was thriving. Leases were stable. Tenant satisfaction was up. The small businesses on the ground floor were turning solid profits. A knock broke my focus. I opened the door to find my mother. She wore jeans, no makeup. It took me a moment to process the casualness of it. I got your invitation, she said, holding it up. A courtyard holiday party. I nodded. It's not quite your scene. No, she admitted, glancing around my modest space, but I'm learning that maybe scene isn't everything. She picked up a photo of me at 23, beaming at my real estate license ceremony. I never asked, she said, why this path? Because I wanted to build something real, I replied, not just buy it and flaunt it. And now, she murmured, you control more than all of us. I do, I nodded, but control isn't the goal, purpose is. She looked at me seriously. Will you teach me? Come tonight, I said. Meet the families who've lived here for decades. Listen, that's where legacy begins. Later, I stood by my window, watching the lights twinkle across Portland, this city I'd quietly made mine. Ashcraftoft Plaza glowed in the distance, no longer a monument to greed but a symbol of restoration. Below, the Alder Street building hummed with quiet life. The brickwork, the original wood beams, the garden courtyards, all preserved with care. My phone pinged with new messages, partnership offers, speaking invitations, acquisition deals. West Pine Holdings was in high demand now. But I kept my schedule humane, my routine grounded. Success wasn't about outshining my past. It was about building something that mattered, something that would last. A week later, at the Alder Street holiday party, I stood by the garden fountain, watching my family adjust to a world they once dismissed. Mom sat beside Mrs. Lopez, a tenant here for 38 years, listening with genuine interest. Preston helped string lights with Mr. Keller, a World War II veteran and our longest-term resident. Cassandra laughed beside a table of kids icing sugar cookies. Slowly, they were learning. Real wealth isn't in what you can flaunt, it's in what you preserve, what you share, what you elevate. Dad joined me near the cocoa table. You know, he said, your great-grandfather believed buildings should shelter hearts, not just wallets. I nodded. I found his old ledgers, handwritten notes about protecting tenants. We forgot that. He looked at me, not like a daughter who'd gone off track, but like someone who'd picked up the torch he'd dropped. You could have ruined us. Never the point, I said, watching a little girl twirl under the fairy lights. I wanted to build something that would outlast me. And sometimes, the greatest success isn't in proving them wrong. It's in offering them a better version of right. If you've ever been underestimated, overlooked, or quietly counted out, then maybe you see a little of yourself in me. I didn't set out to prove anyone wrong. I just wanted to build something real, something that couldn't be taken away because it was rooted in values, not vanity. If my story moved you, I'd love to hear your thoughts. Drop a comment below. What would you have done in my shoes? What have you built in silence while others doubted you? Let's talk about it. Let's give each other credit for the quiet work, the long nights, the tough choices. And if you're facing a moment like I once did, when the world expects nothing from you, don't shout louder. Just build stronger. You don't need approval to begin. You need purpose and consistency. The rest will come. Support this journey by subscribing to the channel. There are more stories ahead about resilience, redemption, and redefining success on your own terms. Because legacy isn't what you inherit. It's what you create. And sometimes the best revenge isn't revenge at all. It's becoming exactly who they said you couldn't be. So, subscribe, stay with me, and let's build something that lasts.